Hey, it's surfing, Victorian report. Thursday, the 16th of July, 2026. Good morning, Victoria. The violent winter weather has backed away, but the Southern Ocean has not finished delivering. A high pressure system is moving over the state, taking much of the wind out of the question, while a strong, long period southwest swell, which is a ground swell, continues to arrive. The result is a much broader range of surfable options today, although conditions vary dramatically between the sheltered surf coast reefs and the fully exposed Mornington and Phillip Island beaches. The broad call is straightforward. The surf coast has the best quality and control, while Mornington and Phillip Island have the greatest raw size. East Gippsland remains the weakest region today. Statewide overview. Central Victorian waters are carrying a 2 to 2.5 metre southwest swell, increasing to 3 to 4 metres in the far west. Winds are generally west to southwest at 10 to 15 knots, with seas around 1 metre. A high pressure centre is forecast to settle over Victoria and linger through the weekend, creating lighter winds and increasingly clean conditions. The swell has a long period of roughly 13 to 15 seconds across the central coast. That means today's waves have considerably more power than their face height may initially suggest. Expect long pauses between sets, followed by concentrated pulses and occasional clean-up sets. Today's regional ranking. Coming in at number 1 is Surf Coast and Torquay. Coming in number 2, Phillip Island and the Basque Coast. Number 3, Mornington Peninsula. And number 4, East Gippsland. So for the Surf Coast and Torquay, conditions. This is the most reliable region today. Torquay Point is receiving approximately 1.8 to 1.9 metres of southwest to south-southwest ground swell at 15 seconds. Producing surf around 4 to 6 feet at exposed reefs, with smaller waves inside Torquay's more protected sections. Bells and Winky Pop will have solid lines, considerable set energy, and enough size for experienced surfers. The open ocean west of Torquay remains substantially larger. The Bureau expects 3 to 4 metres of southwest swell in the far west, so locations beyond the protected Torquay reefs may still be very serious. Winds are west to southwest, around 10 to 15 knots. Westerly wind is reasonably favourable for the Torquay reefs, although any southwest tendency introduces texture and cross-shore lump. Best window for today was dawn through late morning, which did provide the best balance of wind, tide and manageable surface conditions. A second window may develop late afternoon or toward dusk as the wind decreases. Forecast guidance suggests the swell remains powerful through the afternoon before becoming cleaner overnight. Friday morning currently appears even better, with the slightly smaller 1.6 metre swell at 16 seconds and offshore wind forecast around Torquay Point. So the breakdown for the Surf Coast: Torquay Point and Cozy Corner, smaller and more approachable, generally around 3 to 4 feet with larger pulses. Bells Beach, solid 4 to 6 feet, potentially larger on the strongest sets. Winky Pop, faster and more concentrated than Bells, with long period energy, making the takeoff zone less forgiving. Jan Juk, more exposed, larger and less organised under the southwest wind. West of Bells, powerful and potentially well overhead with serious currents and difficult access. The hazards to keep in mind, the main dangers are shifting takeoff zones, wide clean-up sets, slippery reef entries and strong water movement through channels. Long period swell may produce deceptively calm intervals between sets. Surf Coast rating is an 8 out of 10 today. Moving on to Mornington Peninsula. Mornington's exposed ocean beaches are receiving the full force of the remaining groundswell. Current model guidance around Gunnamatta indicates approximately 7.6 feet of deep water swell at 13 seconds from 225 degrees southwest, producing surf in the 8 to 10 foot range at Gunnamatta and St Andrews. Portsea Back Beach may see occasional 8 to 12 foot sets depending on bank exposure. The swell is easing, but only gradually. There remains a lot of water moving through the beach systems. Early winds are light enough to leave some workable faces, but west to southwest wind is not ideal for the open beaches. It creates cross-shore to onshore texture and a pronounced sweep. Conditions should settle somewhat later as the high takes control. Now that's the high that's going to settle over Victoria for majority of the weekend. The best window, the strongest opportunities should be late morning through early afternoon, practically as the tide fills in and the wind remains moderate. Regional guidance also favours the late morning incoming tide, noting that the banks should improve as the tide rises. The cleaner water will not necessarily be at the largest sections. Finding a slightly sheltered bank or headland will be more rewarding than simply chasing maximum size. Breakdown for Mornington Peninsula, Gunnamatta, 8 to 10 feet, powerful, sweep and suitable for highly capable surfers. St Andrews and Back Beach, similarly large with some sections closing out. Portsea Back Beach, potentially the largest area with substantial clean-up sets. Sorrento Back Beach, smaller in protected sections but still powerful. Flinders, much cleaner in places but heavily dependent on swell direction and local shelter. Point Leo and Western Port, around 1 to 2 feet at many sheltered locations with isolated larger sets at exposed reef. Hazards, expect strong rips, rapid lateral sweep, difficult hold downs and moving takeoff zones. The long period means waves can break farther outside than expected. This is not a beginner or lower intermediate day on the peninsula's open beaches. And the rating there for Mornington Peninsula is a 5.5 out of 10 overall, higher for experienced surfers who find shelter. Now we'll move on to Phillip Island and the Bass Coast. Phillip Island remains large, but the lighter wind creates more opportunity than yesterday. Woolamai is expected to receive approximately 1.7 to 1.8 metres of south-west swell at 15 seconds, translating to surf around 5 to 7 feet, with larger sets possible at the most exposed peaks. The broader island forecast ranges considerably. Woolamai, 5 to 7 feet with occasional larger sets. Forest Caves, 2 to 4 feet depending on exposure and bank shape. Smith's Beach, 2 to 3 feet. Surfy's Point, 2 to 3 feet, questionable. YCW, 1 to 2 feet. Cat Bay, approximately 1 to 2 feet. Exposed western and southern reefs, 5 to 8 feet in places. Winds are likely to remain light to moderate from the west to southwest. This is still onshore or cross-shore at Woolamai, but the lighter strength makes it far more workable than earlier in the week. Best window, early morning, which has already passed us, offers the best chance of lighter wind and cleaner faces. A second possibility appears towards late afternoon and evening, when the wind is expected to weaken. The swell remains energetic into tonight, with forecast guidance suggesting glacier conditions late. Friday morning remains the safer quality bet, with the swell easing slowly but retaining a long 15-second period. Bass Coast. Bass Coast, Kilcunda, Powlett River and more exposed Bass Coast beaches should retain plenty of power. They will be less organised than the protected island beaches and may have strong lateral currents. Cape Patterson and Inverloch will be significantly smaller, but they provide better options for surfers wanting to reduce exposure. Hazards. Woolamai's main issue today is not merely wave height. It is the combination of long period power, deep gutters, lateral sweep and difficult exits. The possible surface may appear calmer under light wind, but the underlying swell remains powerful. Phillip Island and Bass Coast rating is a 6.5 out of 10. East Gippsland. East Gippsland is settling, but the swell direction remains poorly aligned with many local beaches. The Bureau forecasts 1 to 1.5 metres of south to southwest swell, increasing to 1.5 to 2.5 metres in the far east. Southwest wind around 15 to 20 knots is expected to ease through the day, with seas dropping below 1 metre by early evening. At Lake's entrance, the nearshore surf is only around 1 to 2 feet. The dominant component is short period west to southwest energy, near 6 seconds, with a much smaller 13-second secondary swell westerly wind remains cross shore. More exposed beaches farther east will receive greater size, but quality will vary considerably. Best window for the East Gippsland region is late afternoon is the best chance as the wind and sea state ease. Friday will be a better option overall, with light winds, sunny conditions and reduced ocean chop around the Gippsland Lake District. The breakdown is as follows. Lake's entrance 1 to 2 feet, weak and wind affected. 90 Mile Beach, variable with short period peaks and limited organisation. Cape Conran and Marlow, better exposure to southerly energy with potentially larger waves. Malakuta and the Far East, 3 to 5 feet possible at exposed locations, but wind quality remains uncertain. Hazards, bar entrances remain hazardous, even when nearby beaches appear small. Southwest swell and outgoing tidal flow can create sweep, confuse water around entrances and channels. East Gippsland rating for today is a 3.5 out of 10. Now we're going to move on to the tide guide for Thursday. Tide timing varies across individual beaches, but today's broad pattern is a low tide early this morning, a rising tide through the main morning surf window, and an afternoon high. Approximate regional references. Torquay and Port Phillip heads, low around 5:45 to 6 a.m, high around 1:15 to 1:30 p.m, low around 6:30 to 6:45 p.m. as well. Mornington ocean beaches, similar ocean side timing with local variation of roughly 10 to 20 minutes. Western Port and Phillip Island, low around 3:30 a.m. this morning, high around 2 p.m. this afternoon, and low again around 7:30 p.m. this evening. Lake's entrance, low around 3:45 to 4 a.m. this morning, high around 9:45 to 10 a.m. this morning as well. Low around 3 p.m. this afternoon, high again around 10 p.m. later tonight. These are regional planning references rather than navigation grade predictions. Exact station tables should be checked before boating or crossing a bar. The Bureau publishes official Victorian tide predictions and annual tide tables. The week ahead. Friday, 17th of July, best quality day. Friday's shaping up as a standout. Central waters retain approximately 2 metres of southwest swell, increasing to 2 to 3 metres in the west. Winds become west to northwest around 10 to 15 knots before easing later. That wind direction is favourable for Torquay and increasingly useful for the exposed Mornington beaches. Surf coast, clean 4 to 5 feet reefs, long period lines and offshore wind. Mornington, still solid but more organised, generally 5 to 7 feet at exposed beaches. Phillip Island, 4 to 6 feet at Woolamai with cleaner morning conditions. East Gippsland, smaller but cleaner with light winds and a sunny afternoon. Statewide rating, 8.5 out of 10. Saturday, 18th of July, clean and manageable. Northwest winds of 10 to 15 knots are forecast across the central waters, becoming light and variable later. The west to southwest swell eases to 1.5 2 metres, with 2 to 3 metres remaining in the far west. The surf coast should retain clean reef surf, although the more protected breaks will be noticeably smaller. Mornington and Phillip Island should have a strong combination of offshore wind and reduced swell size. This is likely the best day for competent intermediate surfers. East Gippsland should be small and clean with morning fog or frost possible inland. Statewide rating for Saturday is a 7.5 out of 10. Sunday, 19th of July, smaller and tidy. That's what we like to hear for those beginners and intermediates. Might be a bit of a crowded day Sunday. Who knows? Who's going to brave the cold? That's the question. The high remains over Victoria, keeping winds generally light. Residual southwest swell should continue to fade. Surf coast, 2 to 4 feet at the reefs, smaller inside. Mornington, 3 to 5 feet at exposed beaches. Phillip Island, 3 to 4 feet at Woolamai, smaller at sheltered breaks. East Gippsland, 1 to 2 feet at exposed locations. Morning sessions will offer the best surface conditions before local coastal winds develop. Statewide rating is 6.5 out of 10. Monday, 20th of July, fading swell, northerly opportunity. Not too bad, maybe some residual swell kicking around, because the established groundswell will be well into its decline. Exposed beaches remain the best option, while protected reefs may become very inconsistent. A northerly breeze around the central and eastern coast would favour the Mornington ocean beaches and much of Phillip Island. Torquay should remain clean but increasingly small. Statewide rating, 2.5 out of 10. Tuesday, the 21st of July, approaching, change is coming. Forecast confidence drops from Tuesday onward. Cloud and showers may return around central Victoria, potentially making the approach of the next frontal system. The existing swell would be small, but a new pulse may begin to show first across the far west. Mornington and Phillip Island will depend heavily on whether northerly wind holds before any frontal change. Statewide rating provisional, this is a statewide rating, 5 out of 10. Wednesday, the 22nd of July. Potential reset. Longer range guidance suggests improving weather behind Tuesday's change, but swell timing remains uncertain. The far west and surf coasts are more likely to receive any new energy first. Central and eastern regions may remain smaller until later. Statewide rating provisional, once again, 5 to 6 out of 10. Water temperature and equipment. We always love this bit this time of the year. We know what we should be wearing, and the water temperature, well, they're sitting around 13.8 to 13.9 degrees Celsius at Torquay and Woolamai. A well-sealed 4.3 steamer is the minimal practical choice to be entering the water this time of the year. Boots are worthwhile on reef entries, and a hood will make longer sessions substantially more comfortable. So let's wrap this up. Thanks for tuning in so far. Hey, it's surfing. Victorian Report will continue day to day unless there are interruptions, as life throws at us plenty of those as we try to ward them off and, live life as we should. But today's final call here at Hey, it's Surfing Victorian Report is today's best quality is on the surf coast. Torquay's protected reefs have solid long period swell, manageable wind and the cleanest overall setup. Mornington has the most raw power, but Gunnamatta, St Andrews and Portsea remain very large, swept and suitable only for experienced surfers. Phillip Island offers the best alternative, especially for surfers prepared to hunt between the exposed beaches and smaller protected options. East Gippsland is still the weakest region, although it should improve late as the wind eases. The main strategic call for the week is this. Surf the surf coast today. Target Mornington or Phillip Island on Friday. Use Saturday for cleaner, more manageable conditions. From Sunday onward, follow the most exposed swell magnets as the ground swell fades. Righto, so that's for Thursday. Here at Hey Surfing Victorian Report. Thursday, the 16th of July, 2026.